Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Today is Monday, August the 24th, 2026. You know, usually when I make a bet, I love it when I always win my bets. This is one time I'm not happy winning my bet. What am I talking about? Sometime now, I've always felt that Cleveland was going to name Deshaun Watson QB I. But about a month ago, there was a guy by the name of Benjamin Albright on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And you folks should follow him. He's very knowledgeable when it comes to rumors around NFL teams and around the league and stuff like that. He's very good on getting the scoop. And he posted on Twitter /X that barring injury, Deshaun Watson was going to be named QB1. So after he made that statement, I immediately went to Maryland because in Delaware, they don't, I'm limited about what I can, what sports book I could use. Matter of fact, the only sports book that I could have used to place this type of bet, and unfortunately, they don't, which is Bet Rivers, and they didn't offer me this. So I had to go to Maryland to place a bet stating that Deshaun Watson would be QB1. So I placed the bet, and truthfully, I was feeling good about that bet until this past Saturday after he made the comments he made. After he made the comments he made, I was for certain that when I woke up this morning, the Browns will be naming Shedeur Sanders as QB1. But instead, they named Deshaun Watson as QB1, which has me befuddled because why would you start a man who just told you just a couple of days ago he cannot handle the booing, he didn't handle well the cheering that they did when he got injured, and they were wrong for doing that. But nonetheless, the fans cheered when he got injured. So I was for certain that he was not in the right mental space. And I still am certain he's not in the right mental space to be a starter. But Monkey, and the reason why I waited to come out with this video when I did now was because I wanted to hear what Monkey was going to have to say, and for that matter, Deshaun Watson, because he had a press conference today. And talk about a spin job. Let's talk first about what Deshaun Watson said. If Deshaun Watson said today, would have said on Saturday what he said today, then I can understand Deshaun Watson being named the starter, despite his poor performance on Saturday. But after that meltdown he had, for him to come out with the statements he came out today in today's press conference, that was clearly a PR spin. He does not believe what he's saying, folks. Angelo Maya had a famous saying. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. He not only showed you, he told you he's not in the right mental space. So don't tell me that in 2 days he got in the right mental space, or in a day he got in the right mental space. I'm not buying this. And I do not buy that this was Monkey's decision, because no coach worth his salt on any level would have put a quarterback out there who said what he just said. Because you're not giving yourself a fighting chance. Matter of fact, for those who remember in the movie Casino, when Tony Montana got pinched for exchanging fake money or producing fake money, or in actuality, money laundering, whatever you want to call it. And his lawyer said, Tony, he had that exasperated look. Tony, the law has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I'm an expert at raising that doubt. But when you got $107 million in cash sitting in a taxi cab, or when you are doing what you're doing, honey baby, it's hard to convince a jury you found it in a taxi cab. Well, here's what I'm going to say. Deshaun, the league has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I am an expert at creating that doubt because I can come up with excuses for anything. I can spin anything. Ask my dad, ask my cousin, God rest his soul now, but ask them. I can come up with an excuse for anything. I could justify any kind of move. But when you go out there and tell them, the whole world, that you can't handle being booed and that the cheering for your injury bothered you, honey baby, it's hard for me to convince people that you should be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. So what this tells me is that this decision was not made on Saturday. It wasn't made on Sunday. It wasn't made on Monday. This decision was baked in from really the owners' meeting because the word was that Deshaun Watson was going to be QB1. And I remember the son-in-law of Jimmy Haslam. And I like Jimmy Haslam, by the way. And I like Woody, the owner of my Jets, Woody Johnson. I like them. Because why they're willing to give minorities opportunities when most owners would. So hey, and everybody gangs up on them. And I don't like bullies. And so when everybody gangs up on an individual, I tend to take a liking to said individual. Just like I took a liking to James Dolan for many years because I felt he was getting a lot of unfair criticism. But that being said, he made the wrong move here. This decision was made back in February, March, whenever during the owners meeting. Then why didn't you just come out and say Deshaun Watson was QB1 and stop the charade? When J.W. Johnson, who's the son-in-law of Jimmy Haslam, and he runs the Haslam Group, who runs the Browns and everything else, and he's going to be the future owner of the team. When he came out on 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland, back in, I think was it February, March, April at the latest, and he said Deshaun Watson was QB1, everybody should have taken him at his word. I took him at his word because he's speaking not as some son-in-law who's ignorant. He's speaking for the owner, his father-in-law. It would be just like I'd come out on the radio on the artist TV and I say, player X is going to be the starter and my father owns the team. I'm speaking for my dad. I'm speaking on behalf of my dad. I'm telling you what my dad is thinking. Whether he says it or not is irrelevant. I'm speaking on his behalf. So once J.W. Johnson came out and said what he said, I already knew Deshaun was going to be the starter, but I wanted to wait to get confirmation. And when Benjamin Albright stated back a month ago that Deshaun Watson was going to be QB1 no matter what, barring injury, then that's why I went and placed my bet. And I won my bet, but I'm not happy about this because he doesn't have no business being a starter, folks, after what he said. Now, I'm not a Browns fan, but I do follow the Browns. I'm a Jets fan. And if my owner, Woody Johnson, made this decision, I would be livid. And I'm a Watson guy. I would be livid if my owner made this decision. What are you doing? Why don't you tell the world you're not going to win or have no hopes of winning before the season even starts? Usually, owners and teams give you the facade before the beginning of the season that they're trying to win. The Browns is not even trying to hide it. There's no way you can tell me you're trying to win when you put out a man who is not mentally capable. And Watson is not mentally capable. See, the one thing you can heal is a physical injury. He came back from a rotator cuff or shoulder surgery injury. a torn rotator cuff. And give him credit. He played well in the game where he was playing with a torn rotator cuff or a torn shoulder. You can come back from an Achilles injury. He came back from 2. Those are physical. But the injuries he have right now is mental. And I remember something Michael Jordan said. 90% of the game is mental. Only 10% is physical. 90% is mental. So if he has trouble overcoming the mental hurdles, the mental battles, then how is he going to be in a position to give you good football from a physical standpoint? There's no way. What he said on Saturday was disqualifying. Now, clearly what he said today was the PR team. I don't believe a word he said because it didn't come from the heart. What he said on Saturday came from the heart. That's why I was so angry with him. Like, what are you doing? If you felt that way, then you should have quit. You should have retired. Yes, it might have required giving Jimmy Haslam back some of that money, but better off than that. As my cousin, God rest his soul, Sean used to say, there's no price for peace of mind. There's no price you can pay for peace of mind. And he was right. You can't put a price tag on that. And Deshaun Watson is not at peace. So how you going to legitimately make him your starter? What you could have done after he made those statements on Saturday, you could have said, okay, Shedeur Sanders will be the starter, Dylan Gabriel will be the backup, Taylor Green's the third stringer. We're going to deactivate Deshaun Watson, on a mentally unable to play list, however you want to word it. We're going to pay him. He's going to get his money, but mentally he's not in a position to play. And you could have kept him in the Cleveland Browns organization in some role, advanced scout, some front office role if you like him that much. Because listen, the owner went to the man's wedding. When do you know an owner to go to a man's wedding? When the owner goes to a man's wedding, that means he's more than just an employee. Because owners don't go to employees' wedding. They go to family members' wedding or somebody whom they really like. That's who owners do. Because they're billionaires. Come on. Let's keep it real. Like, I remember I worked for a company, and I'm not going to say the name of the company. Back in 2020, I worked for a company. And I love the company, by the way. I will never bat off the company. But I worked for this particular company, and it's one of the big companies in the financial sector. When my nephew passed away, which was a very emotional time for me, and just thinking about it now, it makes me emotional. One of the nicest things I got was an email from the COO or CFO, but he was a high up in the organization underneath the CEO or the owner. What that told me, especially when others said, "Oh wow, Jermaine, for a person high up to give you that kind of email of condolences, they, like others, didn't get that privilege." Management really likes you, and I already knew management liked me. They didn't have to tell me. I knew it just by that outreach by them. Or by this individual who was high up in the organization without mentioning the name. I almost gave it away. But without mentioning the name, high up in that organization, for him to send me an email, that was one of the greatest or the most biggest thank you, I will ever, and I will always have love for that organization. Because they cared about me. But just because they cared about me doesn't mean I should be still working for them. If my performance is not up to snuff, and if I'm not in the right mental headspace. Well, that's the same thing with Deshaun. No matter how much you care for the guy, I can understand that. I'm a Watson guy. I rooted for Watson, but I cannot justify this. I will not justify this decision. This was the wrong decision. No matter what you thought of Shedeur Sanders, no matter what you thought of Dylan Gabriel. This man is not playable. He has to get into the right mental headspace. The kind of therapy he needs, you can't offer, especially in no day or two. He's not right mentally. And so though I won my bet, I'm very upset that I won my bet. Because it's like you're not even giving the team a chance. And if he couldn't handle I heard it was about 4,000 people in the stadium when he jotted out there to play on Saturday. If you can't handle 4,000 people booing you, imagine 65 or however many seats in Huntington Bank Stadium in Cleveland. Imagine 65,000 fans booing you. If you can't handle 4,000 fans booing you, how are you going to handle 65? This was clearly a form of nepotism. And I got no problem with nepotism, at least if the person is competent in what they're doing. Because nepotism goes on all the time. But this is bad. This is a form of nepotism. You're playing this guy no matter what because you like him. You might even consider him family. Just because he might be family to you doesn't mean he should be working for you. And a lot of people, and including I, got on Kevin Stefanski for how he handled the quarterback situation last year by pretending like 4 people was going to compete and he never gave Shedeur an opportunity. Well, the Browns somehow made what this year even worse. Because you made it look as if Shedeur had an opportunity to win a starting job that he never really did. This reminds me of the whole Charlie Brown episode, for those who watch cartoons, and I wasn't a big cartoon guy, even though I was a big G-Force guy. I love me some G-Force, and I love me some Transformers, but not the good guys. I always rooted for the bad guys. But that's neither here nor there. But the Charlie Brown episodes, where Charlie would try to kick the football, and Lucy would hold the football until Charlie's about to kick it, and then she would yank the football away. Well, Lucy is Shedeur Sanders, making him think, oh, he got a chance to kick this football. He got a chance to be the starting quarterback. And Lucy is the Browns organization. Here you go. You got it, Charlie. You got it. Here you go. You got it. Then yank it away, making him fall on his back. That's what the Browns just did to Shedeur Sanders, and that's wrong. The Bible says the tender mercies of the wicked is cruel. That was cruel what they did to Shedeur Sanders. He doesn't deserve this. You would have been better off just naming Deshaun QB1 from the outset, rather than going through this whole charade, this facade. Was there any way he could have beat out Deshaun Watson? I doubt it. Because it wasn't like Shedeur played terrible in the preseason. Now, I have my issues with Shedeur, particularly his low completion percentage, because you cannot be completing less than 60% of your passes and be a viable starter in today's NFL. No matter how much I like a guy, you can't justify it. But after what Watson said, I'd rather go with the guy who completes his 50-something% than to go with a guy who might complete more but is not in the right mental headspace. I can at least get behind the other guy. How am I going to get behind this? So when people call Cleveland Browns a clown show, unfortunately, it fits. Now, my Jets is also called a clown show, but at least my owner wouldn't have made this, and my coach would not have made this decision. You cannot make this decision. But they did. I want to thank you for watching another segment of the Jermaine Brown Sports Talk Show. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you don't like it, give a thumbs down. But let me know what you think. Take care.